So, it's the end of yet another week, and here on this channel, that means one thing and one thing only. Every weekend, I post an episode of this series we do called Your Take Not Mine, where I turn to you, the viewers, to give me your hottest NBA takes of the week based on what's going on at the time, and I then choose my favorite submissions and discuss them in a video. This week, a lot happened in the NBA world, even though we were at the All-Star break for a portion of it, as we finally got to see some of the players that got traded before the trade deadline play with their new teams, and there were also a few major matchups that went down, so of course we have plenty to discuss. In order to submit your takes, I make a community post on either the day of or the day before the video, similar to the one that you see on your screen now, so if you want a chance to be featured in a future episode, be sure to stay on the lookout for that. Before we start though, I want to thank PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. PrizePicks is the perfect service for all of us basketball fans here because when you're involved, it makes watching games every night so much more fun and engaging. Basically, it's an application that provides you with lines on all kinds of individual player props, such as points, rebounds, assists, three-pointers made, amongst others, and you simply have to choose whether you believe they will record over the set amount in the line or under the set amount in the line. Make your selections, wager however much you want to, and if your picks hit, you can win some big money. For some picks that I'm looking at making for today's slate of games, I'm thinking of going with Steph Curry to make over 3.5 threes, LaMelo Ball to make over 2.5 threes, and Brandon Ingram to score over 21.5 points. If this sounds at all intriguing to you, then go use the link down in the description of the video to sign up today, and use promo code REFERENCE to receive a 100% deposit match bonus up to $100. Once again, thank you to PrizePicks for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back to the topic at hand. The first take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Unlimited Range, and they say that the Celtics could end up being this year's version of what the Atlanta Hawks were last year. So, for those of you who might not know exactly what he means here, allow me to explain. Last season, the Hawks came out of the gate early on in the season a bit slow. They were hovering in the middle of the pack for a while, or even slightly below that, their play was inconsistent, and they really didn't look like a team that could realistically make a deep playoff run. However, they fired their coach midway through the season and allowed Nate McMillan to take over, and from that point forward, they became one of the hottest teams in the NBA. They finished the season last year as the 5th seed, and that momentum carried over into the postseason, where they demolished the New York Knicks in the first round, and then upset the 1 seed 76ers in the second round, before ultimately losing to the Bucks in the conference finals. Now, the Celtics may not have made a mid-season coaching change like the Hawks did last year, but every other aspect of their season really does feel eerily similar to the Hawks a season ago. So when I saw this take, I really liked it and did want to include it today. At the end of the 2021 year, Boston was sitting in 9th place in the Eastern Conference standings for this season, and they were one of the most disappointing teams of the year as a whole. Since the turn of the new year, though, in 2022, they've risen up to 6th place and have been one of the hottest teams in the NBA since then. In the calendar year of 2022, they have the #1 ranked defense, Jason Tatum has broken out of his slump and is performing like the star we've come to expect him to be, Derek White was a huge addition for some bench depth that they got at the trade deadline, and honestly, if they keep it up, they can absolutely compete with anyone in the East, just like the Hawks proved that they could last year. The East has so many good teams with the 76ers, Milwaukee Bucks, Chicago Bulls, Miami Heat, Cleveland Cavaliers all ahead of the Celtics in the standings, and the Brooklyn Nets, who we know will be a force when they get healthy, but you would be foolish not to include the Celtics in that group of teams capable of going all the way too. The next take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Gerst, and they say that DeMar DeRozan should be a top 3 candidate in the MVP race this season. This year, there are so many players having seasons that are turning heads, making a legitimate case to be in the MVP race, which is a welcomed breath of fresh air after so many years in recent history where the MVP race only had a small handful of guys in the conversation. After joining the Bulls in the offseason, DeRozan has been the leading catalyst of their ascension to 2nd place in the Eastern Conference standings, and while he's been putting up monstrous scoring production all year long, he's especially been doing it on a whole new level over the last few weeks, which has further propelled his case for the award race. On the season as a whole, he's been averaging a little over 28 points per game, but over the last 10 games, he's scored over 30 points in all 10 of them, and in that span, he's been averaging a ridiculous 37 points per game on 57% shooting from the field. He's been unguardable in the mid-range, he's carried the Bulls in a time where they are missing guys like Zach LaVine and Lonzo Ball amongst a few others, and that is definitely worthy of all of the praise that it's been getting. He will, without question, get votes for the MVP when the year ends, but the specific take says he should be top 3 for the award, and that's where some nuance comes in. Right now, I would probably put him 4th in the MVP race behind Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis Antetokounmpo, so it really is super close. The problem I have with putting him in the top 3 is that most of his argument is based around his scoring, yet both Embiid and Giannis have been better scorers this year, while also producing far more in other aspects of the game on both ends. And when you take all of that into consideration, Jokic's all-around production is also way too incredible to ignore, so for now, we can give DeRozan his deserved props without forcing him higher up in the MVP ladder than he probably should be. And finally, the last take we'll be discussing today comes to us from Andrew, and he says that the Embiid-Harden duo is going to be one of the scariest duos in NBA history. So we're not just talking right now, we're talking all time, and while it's way too early to talk about things on that grand of a scale, there is something that I think will be historic coming out of this duo's partnership, and that is the rate that these two will be going to the free throw line. When I bring this up, I'm by no means saying it as a way to demean them like most people do when it comes to the players managing to get to the free throw line often, because free throw shooting for some reason has a negative connotation around it. What I'm saying is that for the first time in both Joel Embiid and James Harden's careers, they will be seeing fewer double teams than ever. During Joel Embiid's time partnered with Ben Simmons, it was easy to throw double teams at him because of the lack of spacing, so he saw the most double teams in the league for a while. During James Harden's tenure with the Rockets, it was a similar story, where almost everything ran through him, so most of the time he saw a lot of double teams when he was scoring at a historic rate. That's why he originally wanted to go to Brooklyn in the first place, because he no longer wanted to carry the burden of an entire offensive workload. Due to the circumstances regarding KD's health and Kyrie's inability to play half of their games, that tenure didn't work out, but now both of these two should thrive now that they're together, and when these two thrive, it results in a lot of free throws, because they're both ridiculously tough to stop in single coverage. Joel Embiid has been the league's best post player for years, because of his masterful footwork, soft touch, and brute strength, so if you don't want him getting easy buckets, defenders often resort to fouling because there's no other way to stop him. With Harden, if he gets you in an isolation, he's either blowing by you attacking the rim or shooting a step-back 3, and in both instances, he has been the king of drawing fouls. So because they now play together, they're going to get a lot more one-on-one opportunities than they usually would, and through 2 games together, this has been on full display, with them both playing incredibly off of each other and drawing a lot of fouls in the process. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below what you think about the takes we discussed. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.